So welcome, Ness and Nicky.
Hi,
Hello, it's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
And you're in two different cities. Ness, where are you? Melbourne? Yeah.
I'm down in Melbourne. Yes, I'm a Gippsland girl who moved back to Melbourne January last year. So,
Yes.
yeah, coming up for 2 years.
And I do want to talk about that move as well. Where are
Mm.
you, Nicky?
I am in Brizzy,
Ah,
beautiful
is,
Brisbane.
is it nice and warm today?
It is quite warm. Yes, it's
Yeah.
currently just after 8 and the sweat is happening already. The
Oh
sweat
my
is
God.
real.
I get a bit jealous. Sometimes I just think, oh, I just want to piss off to Queensland. And then people say the sweat, and I'm like, oh, no, nah, forget it. Nah,
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's beautiful in winter. Come up in winter.
Yeah,
Or,
I
or the
think
spring and autumn. Yeah.
some of those grey nomads, they grab a caravan and nick off for 3 months in winter. That
Yeah.
sounds perfect.
I
Now you,
recommend that. That's the way to do it.
I reckon I might. Well, I'm not old enough yet. I'm in my 60s, but that's still not old enough yet. So now you two have well, there's a couple of things, right? So you've got a business together, you've got a partnership called Business Together. You've
Yep.
got a podcast called Smart Business Growth, and you've just released a book called Healthy Hustle. And oh, there it is. Fantastic. And I want to sort of open all of that up and talk a lot more about all of them. I want to go back first though, because in it just there seems to be a lot of synchronicity
Mm.
with the way you two are lined up. So back in 2015, you both had your own business, and for off the top of my head, your Nicky, yours is Evergreen Coaching, and Ness, yours is
Oh,
Inspiring Success. So
yes.
um, what, I just want to sit in that space for a second, because working on your own is difficult.
Mhm.
Having your own business, it's lonely, it's isolating, it's challenging, sometimes not knowing where to turn, sometimes feeling like a failure and don't want to admit you need help and that kind of stuff. What back then, like just whoever wants to start, what were you what were the good, I don't know what to ask. Probably what was the benefits of being on your own, but what were the challenges? Like how did it weigh
Mm.
up for each of you?
I'm more than happy to kick us off on this one because I'm a ex-Gippsland girl. I was there for 22 years, raised a family down there, and was a single parent, co-parent. Um, I had about 15 years experience working in leadership at Centrelink, of all
Yeah,
places, down in Bairnsdale.
yeah.
And I remember 2013, I did the Gippsland Community Leadership Program, which is a bloody awesome program. I kept on getting like higher duties, and then the restructure would come, and I'd go back to my old role, which I just felt like I'd completely outgrown.
Yeah.
And that year, I was also had been in a long-term relationship that ended really suddenly, took me by surprise, and I went into a big pity party after that.
Mm,
So I think a combination of those three things, going to GCLP days where people were up presenting to us about their zone of
mm,
genius, and they were so passionate about what they
yeah.
talked about. And I remember driving all the way home, because I was in Painesville, so I'd be driving all over Gippsland and thinking, wow, what would it be like to have that feeling of passion again about what it
Mm,
is you do? Because, like I said, I feel like I'd outgrown my role. So that combination of those three things came together in 2014, and I just decided that I just had to do something completely different. I cut my hair really short. One of those things where I just want a different identity. And it was only through probably I went to a party, a lady recommended a book. The book talked about coaching, and I went, maybe I could go and study coaching. And so I started looking around, and I found a place to go and do exactly that.
yeah.
And then I studied for a year. And I remember, it was big because I'd never had a business. I'd never known anyone in my own
Mm,
family who had a business. I'd always been the safe in government job girl, and had a mortgage I had to pay. I had kids
yeah.
I was co-parenting and raising. So the thought of actually getting out of that security and going to, I
Mm,
had probably 2 years worth of sick leave. So
mm.
that was pretty
Wow.
scary at the time. But I do remember there were a few false starts. It was like, right, in January, I'm going to do this. And then January came and I went, oh, not yet. And then in March, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start my business. And it was like, ooh, I don't think I'm ready yet. And then I think I kind of got to mid-year and went, I could be saying this for the next 10 years. I can wake up easily in
Yep.
10 years' time, still be in this job,
Yeah.
and it's not where I want to be in my life. So I drew the line in the sand, and it was incredibly courageous. A lot of people said, although I felt at the time it just made sense to do it.
Mm.
And then I realized what they meant, because after 3 months of lots of coffee chats and no sales, I went, oh shit, my backup money for my long
Yeah.
service leave and stuff has now gone. So what am I going to
Mm.
do? And I started working with a business coach, and he helped me to turn things around, and all the synchronicities with Nicky and I. So the coaching school I went to is where I met Nicky now 10 years ago. And the coach that I hired and worked with for the first 3 years of my business, Nicky also worked with. So whenever I was in Brisbane, we would catch up and have a glass of wine and go, how's business going? And have those, buddy chats. And then, fast forward, and it's another story. All these years later, we're now in business together. So that's the background of how that came about. And I think for me, I just had to unlearn a lot of beliefs around sales, particularly around what I had to offer. Like, I really just felt like I wasn't creative. I thought, like, I don't know if your audience knows disc styles, but I know you do really well. Like, I'm such a C energy. And it was like, how am I going to get out there and make sales and an S? And then I think that I didn't learn for a while that actually lean into your strengths.
Yeah.
I just thought I had to be someone else. I had to replicate other successful business people. And then I grew to learn that, my natural style is the mother nurturer style, the communicator, the connection, people are really important to me. And once I leaned into that, I feel like that was a turning point in my business. But I still went through business feeling like I just lacked this creative gene or something like that there was something wrong with me in certain parts of the business. And that probably meant I played small a bit. But that definitely changed once we started working together, and we sort of bounced off each other. And then I'm like, oh, actually, no, I'm really intelligent. I've got lots to offer. Oh my God. So that was incredible to go into that experience. So it was hard. It was hard work. And I remember, especially in the early days, my son was growing at a fast pace and his clothes were shrinking and shrinking on him. And I'm like, as soon as I get paid, we'll go shopping. So, there were some really tough times, but I loved coaching. I loved facilitating, and there was just no plan B. No way was I going back on the other side of the desk to Centrelink to go, it didn't work.
I love that story, and I love that you're saying about leaning into your true self. And this is such a problem that we try to emulate. A lot of people do it, like, oh, I could be like that, I could do that, as so and so does it, or this one does, they do it, I could do it. But we also take on that whole attitude of I have to replicate them, and it's just so no one wants a replication, a duplication, or a carbon copy of anyone else. They want you. They just want you.
And I think I'd listened to a mentor who didn't have children, who was like 10, 20 years older than me, who worked till ridiculous hours, talk about unhealthy hustle, and who said to me once, I would never employ you, off the back of looking at one of my profiles. And I'm like, okay. And then it was like, well, hang on. Why do I want to become that person? I have 2 kids. I don't want to work all these stupid hours. And I want to prove you wrong. My stubbornness kicked in and just went, no, actually, I can't do this.
It's one thing I am big against, and it's not, no, I don't care what anyone else does. You go for your life. I would just never spend my time trying to prove anyone wrong, because I just think, oh, I cannot be fucked with that. Oh, it kill me. But I love what you're saying about sitting on a nice balance. I have a few people who try to encourage me to do more. You could build this, you could build. I'm in a really comfortable place. I get flexible time, and if I earned more, I'd pay more tax anyway. Like, it would actually undo itself. Do you know? And it's just this perfect. I have to work harder, pay more tax. I know. There's some people listening going, no, that's not actually how it works. You only pay a percentage of tax. Whatever. I get it, but it's a perfect spot. What about you, Nicky?
But I just love hearing Ness. This is such a cool moment to kind of pause amongst everything that's going on and hear, kind of reflect on these journeys. And for me, I'm going to go back to briefly to 2009. I actually went out in business on my own for the first time. It failed miserably. I made $17 in 6 months. I had left my corporate six-figure, high-flying sales role. And so that was such an incredible experience. I really hit sort of the bottom of the barrel. I had to work my way back up. I remember I got a job here at Brisbane City River Cruises, handing out flyers. Excuse me. And if I got enough people on the boat, then I'd get an extra couple of hours shift to, surf sambos on the boat. And so it was really incredible experience, humbling experience of failure, and the tenacity that came out in that, the pausing and looking at, well, what do I really want? I ended up going back into corporate and senior sales director roles. And it was through that experience that I came across coaching. So I was Googling going, I was really, really committed to making this business work. It was in personal development. And I was Googling, like, what can I do with my life? I didn't want to just stay in corporate. And I was so fortunate in the roles that I had. And I found there was this thing called coaching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hang on. Well, you get paid to talk to people. You get paid to help them, like, uncover solutions. I felt like I was doing that with my friends in a way anyway, like people would ring. And obviously it's a little bit different to that. I realized after that, but that's the essence. So I started studying. I progressed in my corporate career, and I was a little bit smarter about how I went into business the second time, which was the time that Ness and I met each other when we were studying coaching. We really connected. It was in the era of the short hair. Because I remember thinking, hey, who's that cool chick? And then I was watching her, and she was always just that step ahead, a few months ahead. Oh, you've got a business coach? Who are you working with? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll give them a call. What are you doing for success? Role model. Find your role models. Find the people that are doing the things. So from day dot, I had such an immense respect for Ness, and seeing the results that she was getting. And she wouldn't have even realized, apart from I'd get her on the phone and be like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And what are you doing? And how do I be like you? Which leads to the point we were just talking about. It's unreal. I love that all these years later, we are in business together, and we really embrace what we bring, because I'm the direct opposite if we're looking at DISC.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because we bring different strengths. So if I reflect on some of the challenges, for me, I'm a real people person. One of the things I found really hard in the early days, when I eventually did go back into business, I did it a bit different to the first time I went part-time. So I kept at the time, I'd progressed into a high-performance sales coach role. So I was working with different business units and teams within media, APN News and Media, to help them get their sales back on track. So I did that a few days a week, and I did my business a couple of days. So I really had taken the learns from that first incredibly tough, failed experience, but I took so much from a personal development point and I did it a little bit differently. So it was still scary. It was still, there were moments when I couldn't, pay myself and all of that kind of thing, but it was just done in a little bit of a different way. I think, when we take calculated risks, that's probably one of the biggest tips. Whereas the first time I just went, nah, see ya, I'm out. I don't even know if I had savings, honestly. It was such an impulsive thing. So calculated risks, what are you doing to really go, okay, it's still going to feel scary. We've still got to feel the fear and do it anyway, but I've got a safety net, or I've got some kind of a backup plan. Like it's, I think that's really important. So going into that second business, I realized I was in sales for so long. People, like, get this, people don't like sales. What? Business owners don't like to sell. So it's like, cool, I'm going to do sales and sales leadership training and coaching, and help get those skills into businesses. So back to the part of the big challenge for me as well was that isolation piece. I remember I'd come from a big contact center environment. So I had a team of like over 100 people, to all of a sudden working in the back bedroom on my own. And I was like, oh, there's an element that I love, but I'm a bit lonely. So I tried working in co-working spaces. I tried different things. And now I work at home on my own, and I bloody love it. I don't want to work in an office now, but it was a transition. So it's different things for people to be thinking about, I guess, regardless of where we are, like, what are those challenges of solo business? My wife has had so much brainstorming about business, and she's like, I don't even know what. Okay, yep, I'm just going to listen and nod. But now I've got Ness, we've got our mastermind, we've got the people around us, but it can be really lonely. It can be really isolating, and we've got to talk to the people that know about business as well. Because another thing that I found is I'd talk to maybe my corporate friends, but it's a different gig. So they didn't understand the challenges of business. But the family doesn't understand the challenge of business. So even if you don't have an amazing business partner like Ness, who are the people around you that you can have these conversations with, that you can celebrate revenue, that you can talk about pricing and upping your prices? Because if you don't talk to the right people, by right, I mean people that get it, you can start really questioning yourself.
Yeah, I love all that. I love the contrast in both the stories, and it sort of really hits home that there's no right or wrong way. It's really, you've got to be true to your heart. You've got to, like, if you're a safety net person, then that's what you've got to do. If you're an impulsive person, well, and you think you can wing it, so have a crack, but then just say, I screwed up, and then just jump back to where you were. And I think we've got to stop thinking that there's a perfect plan, because it's not always perfect, and we don't know what we're getting. I had a different story again. COVID hit, and I was working with in behavior with disability, and it was like, well, I'm not driving around in cars with people who might have COVID. I don't know what. And so I had Nicky, my partner, who is who what do you call it, essential worker, who had to stay working, just had to be working in disability. So we had that constant income, and she said, now's your time. Sit there and create this business. Just get it done. And I did, and I agree with you two. Bloody hard at first, and I focused the whole first year on just building relationships, and not strategically, like genuinely, like asking people stuff, talking to people, and being intrigued with what people need, what's missing in people's lives. What the hell, what do we find hard? Because it was just great. So now you go into this partnership, and you've said, hey, let's do business together. I'm curious. So let's talk about DISC, because we've all talked about it. We're all DISC consultants and DISC facilitators now. And for anyone who doesn't know, here's a quick snapshot, and this is very, very quick off the top. You got D, I, S, and C, and D is like the dominant driver, the one that says, just get shit done. I only need the dot points. Let's go. Let's get it done. The I is the interactive influencer, like very chatty, very big ideas, energetic, enthusiastic, the jokester of the gang, that kind of thing. Then got the S, who's the steady supporter. The S is the one who's got the minivan to bring all the community's kids off to soccer. The S makes the cup of teas and holds the world together. And then there's the C, and the C's like the conscientious complier, make sure every goddamn checkbox is ticked and we're not going to get any problems at the end. The one who plans, really, really plans. But and what I love about all that is, I always think, if you were a car, like I like if you were cars, a Jeep or a Porsche, but what I love about, I really love S's, to be honest, and I'm an I. We're just talking before. I'm an I, very strong I, and just quickly on that, I used to be, I didn't know about DISC many, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I worked for TAFE, and I was a pain in the ass, and I. Actually, it was longer than that. Anyway, but I would come into the staff room and be an absolute bloody riot. I thought I was funny as hell, and I'd upset the whole barrel cart, and all the C's would think I was hilarious for 3 minutes, and then they come into the desk, and I used to criticize them, not to myself. What the fuck's wrong with these people? Bloody whingy bitches, that sort of stuff. But then in the car on the way home, I'd be telling myself off. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you such an idiot? Stop being such a dickhead. Keep your mouth shut. That sort of stuff. It wasn't until I did DISC that I fell in love with myself. So, and which was fantastic. Nice. And now I know how to manage it, because I actually understood it. So, if anyone out there doesn't, try and do it, try and be part of it, try and find out more about it, because it actually is life-changing. But now one of the things is, though, you've got two opposites. So the D's and S's clash because the S's think the D's are far too bloody pushy, and the D's think the S's are far too bloody soft and slow and all this shit. And then got the I's and the C's across the other other diagonal opposite, and the I's are way too impulsive and out there for a C, and the C's are way too nerdy for the I's. So you two are an I and a C, although Ness, I can see you're much more SC or
I'm SC.
yeah. So you both got the people component, which is I's and S have a people component. D's and C's have a task component. By the way, we've all got both, but anyway, whatever. Yeah. I'm being very, very simplified in all this.
You are.
It's very difficult. This is what I love. For the opposites to work, it's most clashed. Most I's and C's clash, most D's and S's clash, until you actually understand each other and appreciate each other and celebrate each other and really dig what, oh my God, now I know how you tick. And my God, that's a compliment to what I am. Were you both disc consultants before you met and understood that, oh my God, look what we bring for each other? You did. You knew
absolutely.
That.
So both of us went through at different times. We didn't do the training at the same time, but we both went through the consultant level training for DISC, and we love it. So we really knew it well. As I said, I loved what you said, that it wasn't until you did DISC that you fell in love with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel very similar in business. It's like, looking at the S energy going, the only way I'm going to be successful is if I bring D, and it's so opposite. And yet I could behaviorally shift when I needed to with sweaty armpits and quavering voice into D energy, but I did. But I think that it allowed me to embrace that actually I like who I am. And I think that works in my advantage. So we, Nicky and I had the luxury of 2020 to spend the whole 12 months meeting for 2 hours every Monday and talking about what would it look like if we went into business together.
Yeah.
So the story of us coming into business together was at the beginning of 2020, we went to Noosa because Nicky was looking for a mastermind group and couldn't find one. And I'd been in one. She rang me up because I'd been in one in America in 2019. And she said, look, are you going back? If not, can we just be business buddies and plan out our year and then hold each other accountable to that? So we took ourselves up to Noosa. We did 3 days. We had flip charts over walls with my strategic plan and hers and, all that kind of stuff. And then the last night, over a bottle or two of champagne, as all good stories start, we had this conversation around what would you do if you could do anything? And so we realized that actually we both had a desire to we were working in very male dominated industries, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we kind of wanted to come together and make a difference. I'd got further and further away from being a leader in business, and I felt like I understood more about business to be able to help people on that journey.
Yeah.
So we decided, let's explore this. Let's see what happens. Of course, COVID came, all that stuff. And it was in an online sales game from an amazing mentor we both have called Darcy Smythe and Steve Clayton. They had this, it's like you win, it's like, I guess, chips or something. You win chips and the one with the most at the end of the day wins a prize or something. And we had to pitch our idea to the bank, which is all make-believe, around this business. And the cool thing was that Darcy said to both Nicky and I will invest money, the chips in your business, but you have to come back having taken action. So you need to get an email from an accountant, or you need to, like something serious. You've got to register your business name. You've got to do something that I know you've got skin in the game. And I think we both went, okay. And so we did. We got in touch with the accountant, and then we had that year of being able to say, who do we want to work with? What kind of work do we want to do? How do you want to work together? We worked on a partnership agreement. We talked about things like the 51-49 split, where there'd be certain things in the business that, I can have a voice, but Nicky makes final choice on, and then vice versa. And it, funnily enough, fell into our disc styles. So Nicky's got the creative 51. I've got the which software are we going to use and which accounting platform are we going to be using? And we knew early on to play to our strengths, but it still tripped us up. I think when we were, it might have been when we were sort of doing a website design, whatever, a year ago. And I remember one day distinctly, I'd been working on all the back end things and Nicky had been doing the creative writing. And we both had this fess up session where I went, I feel really guilty because I'm doing, I'm doing the easy stuff. And she went, whoa, you're not doing the easy stuff. I'm feeling guilty because I'm doing the fun stuff. And then from that moment, I think we just both went, oh, let's get rid of this guilt and lean into our strengths.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. I'm so curious because you talked about the 54, 51, 49 and all that kind of stuff. There's people that I talk to and have talked to several that have talked about partnerships. And I'm a little bit scared of a partnership. I'm a little bit like, nah, not for me. But that maybe I'm just too bossy. I don't know. But but other people have jumped in, or other people are thinking, oh, I've known. And so oh, how long have you known them? Oh, no, just a couple of months. We just met, but we've both got some ideas and stuff like that. I always say, oh, for God's sake, get to know them. Like don't just jump into business with someone. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but I'm just think, oh, fuck, you do. What is it? What is it with you? What's that key ingredient that you two know is safe? Like, what is that thing?
Well, I think that first of all, Ness and I were friends. Oh, excuse me, one moment.
Oh,
too much talking over the last week. Surprise. So Ness and I had built a good relationship, but there was also we had built a friendship, but massive respect. So number one, there is immense trust. I know that Ness can work with in those days, my clients. Now, we've got our clients, but I would put her in front. In fact, when we had that time in Noosa, we talked about what could we do to support each other in our existing businesses? Maybe we actually do some cross coaching. So she gets exposure in my business, I get exposure. We can go have a holiday without actually losing revenue, all of that. So there's a combined value system. We have the same values. There's respect and trust in the standard that we hold and we bring. Yeah. It also really helped because all of our coaching training, our eDisc, Joe Pane was our eDisc facilitator, trainer, mentor, still is. So we learnt our tools of the trade at the same place, which means that our clients now can work with either of us and we've got a whole toolkit, but we're kind of working from the same toolkit. Yeah. So there's that sense of alignment as well. The values, the connection, the trust, the utmost respect. And the other thing that I really love is that there is also a respect of our differences. So yes, as Ness said, in terms of our, natural strengths and stretch areas, also though, in terms of values. So for many years I was vegan. I'm mostly plant-based now. For me personally, I'm not comfortable working with certain industries because that just, misaligns with my internal values. Now that is different for Ness. She's not vegan, not plant-based. So we had some conversations early up around, Ness, I don't feel comfortable working with these types of industries, but also I'm happy for you to. So you can do your thing. So there's this mutual respect. And I'll never forget, I felt a bit anxious and nervous about there was an potential opportunity. And I was like, oh, this is why I'm in business, so that I can choose the types of clients that I work with, which is so different when you're in a job. Like you've got to suck it up and do what you need to. And Ness was like, cool, no problem. I was like, what? Hang on. I've been stressing about this. What are you talking about? But that respect of, if you're not comfortable with that, then we don't do it. Or I'll go, and again, from my side, but you can go do it. So the conversations that you have, get to know somebody before you get into bed with them, as they say, metaphorically. Make sure that there is a genuine values alignment, but also we had a partnership agreement. So we talked to the accountant. We have a legal document because we didn't know what was going to happen 4 years down the track. Even though we had all these things in place and we had that luxury of 2 hours every Monday to talk about what are our values, what do we want to do, it can still go pear-shaped. So we still have a partnership agreement because we've got to have smarts in this. This is a business that we're growing and we've got to look to the future. There could be any possibility of anything could happen.
And you're also talking about ditching your ego, and being quite vulnerable and a lot of humility in there as well, and communication, clearly.
Oh, yes.
A lot of very honest, on the table communication, not holding anything back, which I don't think, I know this is going to sound awful, but I don't think most people have got that. Most people hold that back a lot, and I think that's a shame. People are scared of honest, open conversation because what if someone rejects me? What if someone criticizes me? But I just think if they're going to, they're not for you anyway. They're not bringing value to you anyway. But
Definitely. Actually, just quickly on that, I just remembered this. Remember, Ness, in the early days, because knowing that Ness and I both have S and I energy, which don't like conflict or confrontation, we actually scheduled a meeting. I reckon for the first maybe year or so, we had a meeting scheduled where on the agenda was talk about things that make us uncomfortable. So is there anything? So it was almost like it's on the agenda. So we knew, we've had the foresight to know we might go into avoidance. So how do we create the structure to bring out those conversations? And that might seem silly to some people, but definitely to a D, I just have the convo. But knowing, again, with that SI, or even this, the D and the C, but the SI, like, we know that could have been a potential pitfall. Now we've got the muscle. We're pretty good at just giving it to each other as it is, and laughing at it and being like, okay, cool, I needed to hear that. But we knew that was going to be a potential pitfall or blind spot in the early days. So bring in that structure.
Yeah, I love all of that. Oh, I wish more partnerships could learn from this, because a lot go very, very pear-shaped, and a lot could have been avoided had they sorted it out at the start of the game. I love it. Speaking, you just said you've been talking too much. I just heard from a little birdie you just did a TEDx talk too.
Yeah, it's true. I did.
What was the guts of that?
The Art of Healthy Hustle is, and then we had our book launch 2 days later. So it has been an incredible week. And the guts of it is, we've got to find this sweet spot, the knowing when to push, knowing when to pull back. When we can find that sweet spot of taking enough action to create forward movement, but not so much that it becomes all consuming and literally sucks the life out of us, that's when we find this sweet spot. And something that's really resonating with a lot of people around this message is the fact that we need the hustle. Let's not avoid it. We're talking about successful businesses. We're talking about it being challenging. I mean, even this business has had its challenges. Business is challenging. It is hard. There are days where I go, why can't I be happy with a day job? Why can't I just be happy being an employee? And I'm not, because and other people are, and that's great.
Oh, so Nicky's just
froze.
frozen.
That's great.
Oh, there you are. You just froze in this most magnificent pose.
did.
No. It was wonderful. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
You got the gist of it, I'm sure.
I did. That is so damaging. Like I get emails I don't anymore, because I unsubscribe to a lot of that sort of stuff, that comes through. Hustle and grind, yeah, never going to get anywhere unless you got bloody rubber on the road, or whatever the fuck they say, and, and run yourself into the ground and die 10 years early.
Yes.
If you want a name for yourself, you got to go. God, that message just hits my brain in such a way that I want to shoot myself. It's just like I can't hear that message. So when you're absolutely right, we have to hustle. Like, and oh God, I wish there was another word, because I just can't stand that word associated with. But I know,
Karen, I think you need to read our book and maybe
redefine
your relationship with hustle, because remember, nothing has meaning except the meaning we give it.
That is absolutely
It's just a
true.
word.
Yeah, see, then that's exactly why I do, because I've associated the meaning with all that other bullshit, hustle and grind, drive yourself crazy, I don't have the energy anymore to do that. But so the book you're talking about, which I love, and yes, I am going to read it. And I saw Karen with a whole big box full the other day.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I've got to get that book. Now, your book is Healthy Hustle, and let me just read out the subtitle: The New Blueprint to Thrive in Business and Life. So tell us, like, you've already said something, but like tell us more. Like, why did you write it? How did you determine, oh my God, there's got to be a balance? Like, why is this such an important topic?
Over to you, Nick.
Okay, so we both have our stories around this. For me, you heard a little bit of my early days. Well, fast forward to 2012, I'm studying counseling and positive psychology at uni, thinking that that would be the path to coaching. I've just stepped into a new sales director role. I'm now leading over 100 people. I'm organizing my wedding that year. Like there's just so much happening. And the end result of that for me was burnout and these repeat patterns of push too hard and sicknesses and illness, oh, blah, 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 all this stuff. So I realized around that time there actually has to be a better way because I'm driven, I'm determined. I want to succeed. I want to create a business. I want to get back out there and do these things. But the way I'm doing it is not actually working. So, the way that I put words to that now, 12, 14 years later, is that's when I started to rework this relationship with hustle and redefine and started my mission to redefine hustle culture in a healthy way. And it's interesting, the conversation about the word hustle, because we had some really great conversations with each other, with our community around, do we keep the word hustle? Do we take it out? Some people don't like the word. It is icky for a lot of people. Other people love it. Other people, it's the unresourceful way. And we consciously decided to keep it for exactly the reason we talked about, because it's time for us to almost reclaim it and go, we can do it, but in a bloody awesome, healthy, good way. And then also through working with Ness, her experience isn't burnout. She has her own experience, which I'll let her share. But I think the important conversation here is that, before I hand over to Ness, is that, yes, some people will resonate with that burnout, finding a better way. Other people will relate with entrepreneurial addiction, which we talk about in the book, like the 6 signs. Are we addicted to work? It's not actually just about burnout. I don't want us to be known as the burnout girls, because that's not what this is about. It's about, that's one option. There's entrepreneurial addiction. There's doctors' visits are increasing. Like 9 in 10 workers have chronic stress at work. This is some of the research we found. So there's a spectrum there. But the reality is everyone's exhausted. Everyone's stuck in the whirlwind. We're on bloody Juggle Street. And why? Like, why wait until, like, build to retirement? That's like the old school way. Let's live our retirement now whilst we're creating amazing businesses. One precious life, right? So Ness, I'll let you share your kind of version of how we got to writing this book.
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, and as Nicky said, I haven't had burnout experience, but I have had the experience of entrepreneurial addiction in the early days, particularly. So feeling the pressure of needing for this business that I started in 2015 to be a success. And the story I said about, my son outgrowing his clothes and going to parties in the same clothes he wore to the last party. And so I had this belief around working hard. You have to work hard in order to be able to earn your money. And in my corporate days, I remember, I lived 4 hours away from Melbourne, and I'd come down to meetings in Melbourne. I'd be getting home at 9 o'clock at night, and I'd be whinging to one of my friends who was in Melbourne, and he'd say to me, "That's why you get paid the big bucks." And so I had this thing in my head that you got to work hard to make money. So my story is when I started the business, my kids were in primary school. I think my son was in the beginning of high school, and I just had no boundaries whatsoever. I worked and I tried to parent them every second week when they came over, but I did a bad job of both. And there was one particular day in the school holidays where I was just madly, working away, and my daughter came up behind me and she said, "Mum, can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I'm very, very busy and you're going to have to make it very quick." And didn't make eye contact, didn't turn around. And she says, "If I or Cameron or Nan died, would you take time off work to go to our funeral?"
I remember seeing that on LinkedIn or something.
It was like a dagger to my heart. How could I be creating this belief in my daughter that I was too busy for her? So that meant, let's get some boundaries around that. I wasn't great at it all the time, but I realized that I needed to have some sort of balance between it, when they were there, to be fully present for them. And then obviously when I was at work, to be fully present to my clients. The celebrations of making selling a 100K contract, woo, but on the other hand, I had no one to celebrate that with. I came home to an empty house with a champagne, looking at my cat going, "Well, you're not going to bloody drink champagne, are you?" So there was a lot of the signs of entrepreneurial addiction in me for sure. And I think that, I didn't get it right all the time, but I was always searching for. I remember my business coach would say, we're going to go for, some ridiculous amount of income. It's like 350K a year. And I'm like, but that felt so out of my range. And you're going to fly up to Brisbane and you're going to fly to Sydney and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I'm like, my ex-husband was a bit of a prick and he didn't really like being flexible with my work schedule. And that meant that if I went away, I would just miss out on having the kids. I remember saying to my coach at the time, but I don't want that. I just want to be home every second week with my kids. I don't need that much money. What's the measure of success in this life, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the business owners that we've spoken to over the course of the last 4 years that we've been doing business together, we ask them to come back to, yes, you need to have goals in your business and we want you to set those KPIs, but what's important in life?
Yeah.
Like this is part of the message of Healthy Hustle. Your life, prioritizing life is just as important as those business goals. And your plan on a page, whatever it is you use to measure your level of success, must have life goals on it as well. Because we don't go into business. I didn't go into business to become a shit mum. I went into business to provide a lifestyle for my children and I, and lost sight of that a little bit. Thank God my daughter was courageous enough to be able to come up and speak her mind at the time.
Stick a dagger in your heart. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Isn't it funny how and that question about what is success, that's such a profound yet simple question. Because we used to be told at school, success is money, success is buying a house and having 3 kids and having a picket fence and 2 dogs, and that's success. But and you'd see millionaires, and if you're successful, if you're a millionaire. And I remember a poem or whatever it is, Monday's child is full of woe, Tuesday's child has far to go, or I can't remember it all. Mine was Saturday's child works hard for a living. And I'll never forget, our parents used to, like, everyone said, what day was someone born? Because I had 4 sisters, there's 5 of us. What day was Michelle born? Oh, she was born on Tuesday. Tuesday's child has, and so they would repeat the saying that goes. It was just fun from our parents. But what I came to realize fucking hell, I was nearly 60 by the time I realized this, was that I had in my head, Saturday's child works hard for a living. And I actually realized how much that statement had played a big part, that I had to work hard. I was a lazy prick. I was a failure. I was a no-hoper. I was a dropout. Anything that you could put a derogatory name to if I wasn't working hard, and I'd tell people I'm working hard, and sometimes you'd even be working hard doing nothing, but you just had to look like you were working hard, And so these beliefs that we carry, and what I'm hearing is, and I'm yet to read it, I've yet to get it. That's it. Your book is redefining that, is looking at it from a different perspective. Actually, sort of, I would imagine, I don't know because I'm making this up, but this is what I'm hearing from you. Almost putting us into a state, the reader into a state where they start to question what is hustle? What is my relationship with it? Where am I applying healthy boundaries or not? And how can I adjust what I'm doing so that I can live the life I'm here for? Nicky, you said it perfectly. It's one precious life, and I think we forget that on a deathbed that we've pushed ourselves so hard. Are we going to be going, oh, fuck, I'm so good, I work so hard.
Yes.
How fantastic. Or are we going to be going, I didn't let my daughter down. I did spend time with my partner. I did, we've just had this weekend, I said to Nicky, my partner, would have only been a month ago, I want to change a few things. We're doing a little bit too much and I need to readjust a few things because I want to spend more time with the donkeys. And sometimes I think be careful, because I always say the universe has Asperger's. Be careful what you ask for, because you get exactly what you ask for.
Yeah.
And and then by chance, I'm not going into it because I'll just cry my bloody heart out. I'm starting to already. But,
I know. I saw your post.
A series of very unfortunate events has led to one of our donkeys just dying a couple of days ago. I can hardly talk about it, and that's okay. I'm going to cry, but that's all right. And it made me. It's really oh fuck! I can hardly talk. It's hit home so hard that I think, fuck, I should have done that 3 months ago. Didn't and
Yeah.
not that we weren't spending time with them. That was absolutely not the case. But I wanted to spend that more time. I wanted to spend that, half an hour every morning, just pats, and half an hour at night, the cuddles. And I missed that. I missed that because I talked about it, and didn't actually make the changes early enough. But still got a lot of time. And then over the last few weeks, it's been like, I can tell you, horrendous hours, trying to nurse this donkey, not the way I planned it. So for anyone listening, I'm bloody heartbroken and I'm a big sook and sob, and that's okay with me. But to me, it was a real wake up, and it's talking to you. It's very timely talking to you about your book and talking about the restructuring of your life. And I think the sad part is that most people leave it too late. I really hope your book can be one of those triggers for people to go, life's not all about work. Life's not all about, I pride myself in being responsive to emails, and being, not letting people down. That sort of stuff. And I've had to, over the last week, say to people, I'm so sorry. I've been nursing a donkey, and I don't want to hold you up, but I apologize. And everyone's come back going, oh my God, who cares? Just do your donkey. And I think you're so right that we need to, of course we have to hustle. Of course we have to work, and of course we have to put our both feet in the business, because you can't, magic doesn't happen. And I don't know, it doesn't just land in your lap, You just go, I think I'll just sit on the couch and wait for someone to come and book me. That's not going to work. But
No.
we can be much more thoughtful, I think, and about what's important in life. So thank you for doing that. I think, like, I just love these books that mean something, and have got
Thank you. Can I also say, even what you said there around, so first of all, my condolences.
Thank you.
And it is often that something happens where the leverage of the pain is enough to go, whoa, why didn't I do this a few months ago? Why, and that's the thing, exactly as you said, we want to encourage, how do we actually take some of that action beforehand? You also said there was that belief of not letting people down, but everybody was like, it's fine, go do what you need to. That's another belief that we often have. And that, imagine if we had, for every day of the week, a child that was born, if we turned that around and it was a kick-ass, awesome, amazing belief, not Saturday's child has to work hard. There's so much in what you just shared, so much gold in terms of really digging deep to uncover what are the beliefs that are actually impacting our behaviors, because there's often a fear of, but I've gotten to this level of success by thinking, believing, doing this way. So that's what we talk about in the book around, you can let go, you can change your beliefs and continue to succeed. It doesn't mean that if you change your beliefs or ways of working, that everything that you've achieved disappears. And I think that's really important to encourage and remind people as well. So thank you for sharing and being so open about that as well. And the emotion is beautiful, so honor that.
I do. I actually do. I cry in most workshops. I'm not going to pretend I'm not a sook, because I really sook, and I do honor. I do honor my vulnerabilities.
I love that. It's that authenticity that we talked about, and it's so refreshing to have real humans and conversations, not having to be trying to be a robot or like other people. I really see that in you. So it's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I received that graciously. Thank you very much.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
We're such good examples, aren't we, for your listeners
Yeah.
and your audience?
Well, I think, like I get people who want to come on here and they want to talk about how to make a 6-figure business and how to, let me tell you all your listeners all the secrets to success. And I say, don't come on. Just you're not my audience's person. And somebody might be listening to this going, oh, buck you, Karen. I'd really like to know that. But you'll have to go listen to another success podcast, because I think what people need is not wankers telling us how to be perfect. We need real human beings saying it's not easy. I've failed. I fucked up. Sometimes life's good, sometimes it's not. Let's be honest. But we've got to love it. We've got to love ourselves. We've got to love each other. We've got to be passionate, and kindness. And honesty gets us further in business than trampling people down. And
So true.
It's what do you I'm interested that Ness, you did, and I assume you're still doing it, are very interested in financial wealth for women. Like, you've got a bit of a soft spot there. I was going to ask you, do you think it's worse for women? That's a dumb question, because of course it is. We know that. What's the biggest why are women so self-doubty? I know you might not even know the answer. This is a big question. What is it about women that there's this sort of belief that talk about beliefs that I don't deserve to be making good money. I don't deserve to be wealthy. Like, as long as I can put food on the table, that's enough wealth. What, in your opinion or in your experience, where's this come from, this female?
That's a great question. And I think, we've got to remind ourselves that I can't remember the exact numbers and dates, but it is only very recent in history that women have been allowed to vote, that women have been allowed to work. I always remember Nicky's story of her beautiful grandmother who, and in fact, I might just throw to you just to say that quick story about.
So my grandmother fled the Hungarian Revolution in 56, came over to Australia on her own. She was fleeing also from her husband and couldn't rent an apartment. So she literally had to rely on the kindness of a strange man to put his name down so she could sublet a room somewhere. Like that's the story you're thinking about, Ness?
Yeah.
And that was, 56. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that
not that long ago, to be honest.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
And so, you look at what the stories we bring through history, right? And the belief system and the patriarchy and, all of the things that bring us to this modern day. And it seems crazy to me that, my grandmother, that sort of time in life, that working was actually a privilege for women. My grandfather managed all of their accounts and their finances, and that was the role model my mum had. And then obviously, the role model gets passed on. So I think that there's something in that where we've been raised under the belief that men look after women, and men are the ones there to be responsible financially. That never really resonated with me because from the first job I ever got, I remember the first year I went, what? I earned $1,200. How did that happen? So then I had an exercise book and I'd write down everything I spent because I wanted to, it was an interest of mine, very sea energy. And then when I got married, I didn't stop to ask the question, but my ex-husband, his money belief system was completely opposite to mine. So that was really stressful because we had he was such a high risk taker and I was so conservative. And then when we separated and he wanted to get his revenge, it was all about, I know the two main points you have, one is financial security and the other one is around being a good mother. And so he'd press on the bruise over and over again. And through that journey of standing up for myself and, getting back on my feet and knowing when I left the marriage, I don't care if I go into debt. I don't care if I got tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I'm free and I can rebuild. Money will come back. It was one belief that I had, money will always be there. And I think that then I surrounded myself with other strong women role models, people who were helping, like it took me 10 years before I found that. The Mel Brown, who's a great money mentor, Julie Crockett, who helped me buy my first investment property, all these amazing women that are there, even Sally Ann Hartnell, who does works as a divorce coach to help women through that. You just think that there is so much more available, but unfortunately for some women, that belief and the mindset from what we get generationally that men will provide, like, honey, a man is not the plan. That is definitely where we're at in our life. So I hope that, the work that I do in that space and the role model I am to both of my children, a male and a female, that it starts to break that pattern down and break the cycle that we are perpetually in. Just even the conversations we're having still around pay gap, gender pay gap, around childcare, that it's in our society. And I think it's harder to break free. But my biggest takeaway is surround yourself with role models who are strong women who can help lead the way, because that's the other beautiful thing about women. We are collectively nurturers, kind. We want to see other women succeed. Any woman that I've come across in my circles who is there to support other women to grow wealth, it's exactly that. We're here for you. It's not that I'm going to take it. And I think that that's where we work. When we first started working, we wanted to work just with women. And then what we found over time was actually there's some really great blokes out there too who align with our values. And it's nice to have some male role models who also believe what we believe.
There's several points in everything you said. I agree with that last section. I think we have to have good men at the table, and we have to invest in the men as well. And because if we leave them out, that just widens the gap. But my mum, she had me when she got pregnant with me. She had a job in a bank and at Brighton actually. And she had to quit. Because you couldn't. Oh no, she got married. That's right. She got married. As soon as you got married, you had to.
Yeah.
But my grandmother, my dad's mum, was very strong woman, and she was a great role model for me. You can do anything you want. And to be honest, I was in my late 50s when I totally really understood there was a gender gap, because it had never affected me. Never affected me. I didn't. If it did, I didn't notice. And sorry for my listeners, because I'm still sniffing over my donkey. So sorry about that. I can't be bothered editing it out. So you just had to put up with some sniffs. But the other thing I want to ask you too, I just love all this conversation. We could talk for hours.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Your podcast, Smart Business Growth. What does that showcase? Like, if someone's listened to that, what are they getting from that?
Oh, I love that question, because we love talking about our podcast and talking on our podcast as well, and talking on all. We just love talking. So what we have really identified is that there's 3 key challenges that a lot of business owners and leaders face. Their business feels chaotic. They're stuck on juggle street, feeling all things, being pulled in a million different directions, being all things to all people, despite having a team. And they're stuck in what we call busy trap, and on their way to, if not already at, entrepreneurial addiction and burnout, like we talked about. And so what this podcast is really geared towards, it's helping people get out of business chaos to leverage smart growth. We talk about sales, we talk about profit, we talk about planning it throughout their themes. We want to help, and we do help clients get off juggle street to a place of peak performance. So we talk about things like leadership, how we're creating peak performance environments through culture, operating rhythms, and upskilling your people, your team. And then, let's get off busy trap, people. There's going to be times we have a whole thing where we ban the B word. So there's one action to take from today. Stop using the word busy. Have more interesting conversations. We're all busy, but get out of the busy trap and to this place of time freedom. So we also talk a lot about what we've talked about today, beliefs and mindset, managing energy, understanding our internal drivers, this whole DISC piece. So they're the three kind of key areas that we really lean into: leveraging smart growth, peak performance principles, and getting time freedom back, getting your life back.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So that is called Smart Business Growth. So if you want to go and listen to more of these lovely ladies, go listen to the podcast. If you want to learn how to have some healthy hustle, I can't wait to get that book. Go and buy that book. Now, where can people find? Before I say that, I have loved this conversation.
Oh, so have I.
Yeah, me
Absolutely
too.
loved
Yeah.
it. It's been terrific and honest and raw and
Mm.
really warm, actually, very warm
Yeah.
conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
So you can find us over at www.businesstogether.com.au, and our book, you can purchase that directly at healthyhustle.com.au. Plus,
Yeah.
Nikki and I hang out on LinkedIn, so come and search us up on LinkedIn and continue the conversation there.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I hope people do go and do all of those things. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you
Thank
on.
you so much, Karen. I'm so grateful that you've had us on. I've loved our chat today.
Yeah.
As have I. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Catch you soon. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya. Ta-da.